Okay, so since the last time I was here, how have things changed over the last year with what you're doing in Pinal County?
There hasn't been a lot of change, honestly, when you look at the flow of drugs that are smuggled into the United States, the human smuggling. What we're seeing, the federal government still is not doing their job. In fact, it's gotten worse from that perspective when we have the president actually proclaim that the border fence is complete, which is furthest from the truth. More than half of our border doesn't have any fence, any barrier, and yet he says the fence is complete. And he says these people, meaning me and everyone else, all Americans who want a secure border, he refers to us as these people, not uniting us, but dividing us, saying that these people won't settle or be satisfied with anything. You know, if we build a taller fence or if we hire more Border Patrol agents, we can build a moat and put alligators in the moat. And then he starts laughing. And he thinks this is funny. He's trying to mock us and to minimize the seriousness of what we're facing. Last year, 219,300 illegals, basic illegals, were apprehended. The Border Patrol says twice that number came through undetected, not apprehended.
How do they know?
That's a good question. So you can obviously believe that this is a conservative estimate if the Border Patrol is admitting that the ones we caught reflect 1 out of approximately every 3. So if that's their assessment, what's the true number? If you talk to sheriffs like Larry Deaver and others who are right on the border in Cochise County and elsewhere, they say it's many more multiples of that. So if the baseline, if the majority of basic illegals, people who want to come here to work or to enjoy our freedoms or our health care or our education, even though it's illegal, if the majority of them make it through undetected, what does this say to us of those people who have military training or could be possible members of a terrorist cell, slipping into America undetected, laying in wait like a sleeper cell to bring havoc and terrorism to the United States? We all know that that's what the 9/11 Commission warned us about, and that's why this is a far graver national security threat than anything we face in Iraq, Afghanistan, certainly Libya, which we just started bombing recently. And this is not just an issue about illegal immigration. It's not just an issue about the drug smuggling that is brought from the cartels of Mexico, where they literally control high points of terrain, mountains that have been repurposed as lookout posts for the cartels, at least 100 just in one smuggling corridor in Arizona. How have we got to this point? So those are just two, the illegals and the drug smuggling that are coming in here. But this third issue of an unsecured border, what it allows is not Mexicans or Central Americans, but people from afar, countries of interest, that would easily be able to use this unsecured border as their path into the United States. And that's where all of these reasons trump a lot of the other reasons why we have a strong military presence in other parts of the world, and yet the president says everything's just fine. The border's more secure than ever before. Couldn't be anything further from reality and the truth.
Didn't it kind of remind you of the mission accomplished speech that President Bush gets so much flack over?
Yeah, but this is even worse because this is our own country. And the vulnerability that we're facing right at this point is extreme. And then the same reasons the president gave for bombing Libya, if you remember, were humanitarian reasons. Hundreds of people, maybe 1,000 people could be killed in this what's turning into a civil war in Libya. And if that's the criteria, we would be in at least 30 wars around the globe. And if that's the criteria, why doesn't the president look south to Mexico, our neighbor? America's #2 trading partner, Arizona's #1 trading partner. So we have a key economic interest for Mexico's survival and their success. And what's happened there? 35,000 people have been murdered in this war. The government that declared a war, Calderon, their president, against the cartels, who's winning that war? Clearly it's not the Mexican government. And it creates further instability. But they're just not killing regular citizens. They're killing the mayor of the town, the police chief, the judge who rules against a low-level cartel member, the reporter who writes a bad article about them. What's going on in Mexico is outrageous. And we as a nation have to, even if it's just purely for the economic interest, look at all these far more serious interests that I was talking to you about earlier. And for our own leader, our own president, to say that there isn't a problem here, look the other way, and let me blur this further and make it like it's a racial issue, like the rest of Americans, that somehow we're against immigrants, which is the proud history of our nation. We're not against immigration. We're against illegal immigration. And for the president to try to divide Americans rather than unite us and refer to us blankly as these people is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And if he was sincere, and truly this is a test people have to remember, if he was sincere about immigration reform, why on earth didn't he do it the first 2 years in office when he had supermajorities in the House and Senate, when his polls were far higher than even when Osama was killed? They were up in the 80s, if you remember. So if he was sincere and he really wanted to do immigration reform, he would have done it in his first 2 years in office. Not now, as he launches his reelection and uses it as a divisive issue for our country. This is a very polarizing issue. I get that. I respect that. Me and my deputies out here in Arizona, I have 200 of my full-time staff that are Hispanic. This isn't about race. This is about protecting America. It's about enforcing the rule of law, which is the foundation of America, and it's about stopping possible terrorist threats coming into our country. And we are not in the business of giving citizenship to people who have broken our laws, who have disrespected our country, and then all of a sudden we're going to reward them with putting them in front of the line of millions of people who are appropriately waiting their turn, who have followed our rules, followed our process, and are waiting for a visa for work or as a student or for citizenship.
Right. Okay. Let's back up and just talk a little bit about what you face in Pinal County. What I'm looking for is, I've got X number of deputies, about in our county.
Sure.
Our county is the size of, I don't know, Connecticut.
Sure,
or
absolutely.
whatever. And how spread thin are you? What's the biggest issues that you all?
And
are
I don't know why
facing?
that keeps going. It's like that printer's.
I can't see it.
Yeah,
and I don't
it's
think
fine.
I can hear it
Probably
on the
not.
camera, but
Okay. Well, where we are
hang on a second.
yes,
I'm going to stop this little separation in between each one.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Pinal County, Arizona, we are the #1 pass-through county for drug and human smuggling in the entire nation. We're not even on the border. Geographically, our county is 5,400 square miles. That means we're larger geographically than 3 small U.S. states. We're larger than the state of Connecticut. And we're sandwiched in between Metro Phoenix and Metro Tucson. And what makes Pinal County unique, not only that title that we don't want, is the fact that we have Interstate 8, Interstate 10 that come through Pinal County. So the major routes in our state, as well as a lot of the U.S. and rural routes, come through Pinal County. So the 3 counties south of us, where almost half of all the illegals that enter America come through those 3 counties that come into the U.S., guess where they go from there? They come through my county and Pinal County because of the terrain features that funnel them, shape them through Pinal County, and the infrastructure that's already in place. This is the avenue of approach to get to their destination county, which is Maricopa County. So what we deal with, I only have 214 sworn deputies, literally. Half of my staff work in our 1,500 inmate jail. So our men and women, primarily our job is to respond to your 911 calls. If there's a head-on collision, if there's domestic violence, if there's a robbery, if there's anything that's going on, that's our job. Over the size of a state, our county, the size of Connecticut. And so already we're strapped. And yet we have to take our resources to go and fight these cartel members, literally to go out into the desert, into these smuggling routes where the cartels are so mature and developed in their operations that they have lookouts, scout locations on mountains that have been repurposed as these lookouts to ensure that there's safe passage. They don't want to fight us. They want to get through. But the fact that they have communication systems with rolling encryption, the fact that they have a network of support logistically to supply food and water, they have stash houses, very detailed escorts for their vehicles or for their mules, actual people that are carrying loads of drugs on a daily and a nightly basis here. And we can arrest, we've had operations where we arrest 60 of them. All but 3 are illegals, members of the cartel. We arrest 212. Not just us, we work in a task force with other local agencies and our state DPS and some of the federal agents as well, all of us working together to stop this. We can arrest 212, 6 of them are U.S. citizens. So this gives you a sense of what it is. I could hire 500 or 1,000 more deputies. It's not going to stop 600,000 to 1 million illegals coming through here. And this is where what's required is to keep our eye on the ball, which the core issue here is to secure the border.
And you're saying that there are places in Pinal County that essentially have been ceded to the Mexican cartels. I mean, not you haven't done that, but the government has. And you've called for armed U.S. troops to come here and retake U.S. soil from the cartels, right?
Well, I have asked for help time and again of our federal government. I've written letters, have called Secretary Napolitano, her staff, the President of the United States himself, and what we get back is these laughs and these jokes, trying to make like there really isn't an issue out here. How can we say the border secured when the majority of illegals that come through get through safely without apprehension? The response we get back is our state is sued. I'm personally being sued by the ACLU and the other elected sheriffs. I can tell you the last 2 years I have served as the president of the Arizona Sheriff's Association, and our job's tough enough. Never mind to face lawsuits and that we have to raise money privately to fund our defense. And instead of helping us, our own federal government attacks us, sends teams of lawyers to fight us in court. And then in my county, not on the border, 70 miles north of the border, they put 15 billboard signs that say danger, warning, travel not recommended, drug and human smuggling, armed gunmen. Well, if the border's secure and everything's fine, why on earth is the Department of Interior putting up these warning signs telling our own U.S. citizens that on our American soil it's not safe for travel? The hypocrisy that's going on here. And this is where what we do need is 6,000 armed soldiers and airmen deployed for 2 years, and this is a part of an overall plan to secure the border. $3.5 billion this is going to cost, not the $800 billion, which now it's topped $1 trillion just in Iraq alone now. Okay, we're into nation building now. I've always supported those missions. I've served in Iraq, but this is our own country. Homeland Security starts here at home. We need 6,000 soldiers. How many do we have in Korea?
12,000.
12,000? You know, you look at the amounts of resources we spend for the defense and the security of borders across the world, and this is our own country. My God, what are we doing? And so you start to see the insanity. 6,000.
What you start to see is that there's a political motivation for not closing the border.
Right.
Right.
Clearly that there is.
Okay.
And
you want to say that?
well, there is a political motivation that when you see that it's calculated to the degree that when the president has it within his means to take a very controversial issue and to address it, to solve it, to bring immigration reform when he had the votes, he didn't do it. But he uses it as a political weapon in his reelection when he has no chance because the Republicans in Congress will stop him. But he uses it saying, I will fight for you. Who's he talking about? He's telling the illegals and to Hispanics and almost trying to make like somehow the people who don't want to do it are against Hispanics or Latinos. Mm-hmm. Couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah. You know, we want to enforce the law, and then the president has an agenda here because he's doing it only for his reelection that clearly there's a political end state for him. And he wants to, long-term, to recruit and to retain Hispanic, Latino voters.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on a second. Okay.
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
I only thought of it because I could hear it. There's this group of activists who, in the name of humanity, according to them, are going out and placing water points for illegals, going into Mexico and dropping off maps that show them how to get through there, even giving them GPSs and arranging for them to to make pickup on this side.
Right.
How do you respond to that sort of thing?
Well, I can tell you, the men and women who proudly serve our families throughout America in law enforcement, we're just not enforcers of the law, we're protectors and we're compassionate. I can tell you dozens of stories where my deputies have risked their own lives to save illegals. And when we're enforcing the law, sometimes we're fighting a bad guy. And then at the same time, once we put that person into custody, we've got to make sure that that person's okay. Give them medical attention and treat them with due regard and afford them their rights. The same thing here. We've gone, I've had deputies that have jumped into canals that they shouldn't have jumped into because of the inherent dangers of a deep canal that looks calm as can be. We had a dozen illegals that jumped into a canal. And my deputy ran up to the canal as these people were screaming for their lives, and he dropped his duty belt, jumped in as another deputy was grabbing something to pull them out with. He grabbed jumper cables from his trunk and pulled these people out. But meanwhile, and I told Deputy Warren, I said, Warren, what were you thinking to jump into that canal? And he said, Sheriff, I saw 4 people drown right before me because the current just sucked them underneath. And he said, if I didn't jump in right then, I knew these people would drown. And he jumped in. He's married, has 2 kids. He jumped into that canal, and these 5 people climbed on top of him and nearly drowned my deputy, who's 6'4". And the other deputy pulled him out with these jumper cables. And I told Warren, I said, Warren, I'm so proud of you for what you did because you risked your life to save other people. Don't jump in a canal again.
Don't ever do it again.
But that's the measure. He knew these people were from Honduras and from a foreign country and that they were breaking the law. But that's the measure of our men and women. There's countless times that we've rescued people in the desert that were left behind by the coyotes, by the guides. They don't care about these people. They leave children and women out in the desert literally to die. You know why? Because they were too slow. They were slowing down the group.
And they already got the money.
They got their money. They just leave them out there. We have bandits in our own country from Mexico, gang members, most of them, that come into the United States to steal from these illegals at gunpoint. Many times they kidnap them, hold them for ransom. They rape them. They kill them, literally. And they even rob, we refer to them as rip crews because they rip the drugs from the cartels and they steal the cartel drugs because they can resell it. They didn't invest anything. And by the way, they just walk 5 days into Pinal County and they took them, they robbed them. We just had a shootout last month where one guy was killed, another was shot, and we arrested 6 of the smugglers. The rest of them got away. This is happening 35 miles outside of America's 6th largest city. And so when you look at the humanitarian part, look, I don't want to see anybody hurt. And where's the human rights outcry for these people from everybody else here in the United States? And they're trying to make like somehow the good guys, the enforcers of law, are somehow the villains.
So how do you feel about the people who are out there, encouraging them to come across?
We shouldn't be encouraging. We shouldn't be putting out maps. I'm all for if somebody needs help, that we help them, that we rescue them. We're not going to allow anybody, I don't care who they are, to perish if we have something to do with it. We respond and we use every resource necessary to save life. But we don't put in a system where we have all these water points and maps to encourage people to travel illegally into the United States.
Sure,
Absolutely
sure.
not.
Well, and I mean, the way I see it, it seems like you're even encouraging more people to do it, which would then increase the risk to the number of people coming in, and
Right.
maybe resulting in more people perishing from
Right.
exposure.
Well,
because they can't find the water point.
it's more than a tacit encouragement. You're actually almost condoning, well, God, if they're putting out maps and they have water points, it's almost like it's a hiking trail.
Yeah, and we certainly don't. I mean, that's not the right thing for the people for the Americans here.
Right.
Tell me real quick about you just did tell me a lot of,
Yeah.
I mean, just good stuff about the men and women that work for you, and about the people of Pinal County and the dangers they're facing. I'm thinking of the lady that we heard from in the
Oh, yeah.
in the press conference that had guys watching our house, and they came down and robbed all our, took all our guns.
Sure. This is a daily nut roll. It's almost like we're on a hamster wheel. This doesn't end. And for our families here in Pinal County, countless times on a daily basis, we're either in a pursuit, there's some house that's robbed, there are firearms that are stolen, there are vehicles that are stolen, we've had carjackings, we have had people killed. That's not on a daily basis, but the fact that this violence continues, and it is so much more extreme than any other place along the border, and this is why you're seeing Arizona in the middle of this fight. We are ground zero in this fight. If close to half of all the illegals that come into the country come in through here, that's why we're screaming. And how has it become my job as a sheriff to fight foreign criminals in the drug cartels? You know, and where our local law enforcement have death threats against us from not just the cartels, but from Mexican mafia. Because my guys and deputies and undercover, you know, take their money. We seized $1.8 million recently in cash from these cartels, and we get a portion of that. We seized another $500,000. We take their vehicles, we take their houses. When we do that, we don't make friends with these people. We become forever their enemy, and this is business to them. So here, where we now are coming under threat of retaliation from criminal elements from a foreign country. Why isn't our own president standing up and saying this is going to be tolerated? You're not going to bring this violence from Mexico that has destabilized their country into America.
So tell me about the brave work that your guys are doing then. I mean, describe to me. I'm looking for,
sure.
You know,
well, each and every
the guys I work with are just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. The men and women who serve as deputies, as police officers, truly are heroes. From the day we were little boys and girls, we wanted to be an officer of the law, to protect our families. They never signed up for this, to fight cartels from a foreign country, but they do so without complaint. I have a deputy who's still out on an injured status. He had to physically fight one of these cartel members and broke his hand in 5 different places. And the cartels fled from him at over 100 miles an hour, ran a red light, crashed into 2 vehicles, and then fled on foot. And my deputies chased after these bad guys and had to fight these guys and take them into custody. We had a detention officer right here in my jail that a cartel member was being released by the courts, and he had a hit on him from the Los Zetas, a violent cartel in Mexico that said they were going to kill him because they believed he was a snitch. And as he's being released, which is normally a very happy day for a prisoner, punches out one of my detention officers, breaks his nose, 11 stitches on his face, kicks him while he's down, had to be restrained, and he said it was safer behind bars than it was being released because he was going to be killed by the cartels. This is the ripple and the impact from this war with the cartels. That this violence isn't coming here, it's here. And the guys that I work with face this every day.
Were you an infantry commander in the military? Or?
I started out as an infantry soldier. I became a combat engineer, and down in
But
Yuma.
Did you command a unit or?
Oh yeah,
soldier?
yeah. Actually, I was a task force commander, and we have multiple different MOSs and branch qualifications. We had engineers, we had infantry, we had MPs, anywhere at the lowest end 400, usually 600 to 700, at times over 1,000 active duty, both Army and Air Guard. It was a Guard Pure operation in Task Force Yuma, and I commanded those soldiers for a year and a half. Wow. And we had, of the 9 sectors of the Border Patrol from Texas all the way to California, we had the highest result of a decrease in illegal entries. Right now, as we're talking, there's 96% reduction in illegal entries. That's what a secure border looks like. And I can tell you, having been a part of that mission and helping to lead this successful operation in support of the Border Patrol, we know it can be done. And this is not beyond our ability. And how can we say, as Janet Napolitano has said, we've done all we can do, and the border's not going to be secured? I reject that. I know the border can be secured. We've helped do it. And besides, there's nothing more important than our own national security right here at home.
What can the average American do to help?
One, you got to understand that this threat is real and it's growing. And that border has to be secured. It isn't employer sanctions. It isn't Senate Bill 1070. It isn't all these legal battles that we're in. The border's got to be secured. This is different than the immigration reform and all of that. This is about a threat to our country. That once we understand that, what are we going to accept from our government? This government is us. I don't care if there's a Democrat or Republican, both have failed. We need to secure this border for America. And that's where I'm asking for leadership. Just like Bill Clinton did some great things for our country and signing the double barrier fence, it's just never been completed. Everybody's got enough blame for why. So I'm asking our president, or whoever is the president, to secure the border, to protect America. Then and only then can we talk about what follows in terms of immigration reform.
So you're saying accept nothing less than a secure border?
Accept nothing less. Demand of your congressmen, your senators, the 10-point border security plan offered by Senator McCain and Senator John Kyle of Arizona. That's going to bring a secure border.
NRA question just popped into my head, NRA kind of angle. Does a well-armed and trained